So one important announcement. So this is Verizon Wireless. I know most of you are familiar with the fact that Verizon has intended, they actually asked the Tech Council for a letter of support for a fiber build project they have targeted for the Cape. Today's session is not to talk about it. However, Ellen Cummings, their Director of Government Affairs for Massachusetts, is here and will talk one-on-one with anybody who wants to about that, very graciously. Thank you very much, Ellen, for making that. But today's session is about fixed wireless cellular technologies, and so anything about that is fair game. So please, I don't know the whole team that's here, so I'm going to introduce Bill McGrath, who is the first person from Verizon who actually reached out to us earlier this year. Bill is with the wireless division and focused a lot on fixed wireless access. He will introduce the rest of his team. So with that, I will turn it over to Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Steve. I do want to also just start off really saying thank you, Steve, and your whole team as well from Cape Cod Technology Council and for facilitating this. Thank you, Kim, as well for giving us this great space today. And thank you to all the attendees in your interest in learning about our fixed wireless access for the Cape Cod. And Cape brings a kind of a special place to me as well, kind of growing up locally and coming here yearly to Mashpee and Brewster area as well. So it's awesome to have an opportunity to speak about such great technology, and it's an opportunity to provide the consumers, businesses, a new level of connectivity for running their lives and businesses. So I kind of want to, before introducing the team and the next speakers for this, I do want to just kind of kick it off and just have a kind of a moment, take us back before we kind of really look forward and just kind of remember a sound, right? So, yeah. So, yeah, time machine. So I want to take us back to that thought, right, where we had really first time hearing this was an area that was our opportunity, right? It was an area of wonder. Like we're now we're riding this sound into a world of discovery, of connection, and just what's to come, right? Where we really didn't know. Fixed wireless access is that next means of transport into an area where we really don't know all of we don't know more capabilities that it can do than we do know because of the way that it is designed for delivering us to the internet. I wanted to also yeah, sorry. So this is just another means and a pivotal transportation for us into the information revolution and giving us the ability for that means of connection. For today, so I want to next pass it off to Brian Feast for our introduction into the fixed wireless access in business technology.
So good morning, everybody. So as Bill mentioned, my name is Brian Feast. I am a solutions architect here at Verizon Wireless. I've been here 23 years, and I'm more involved in the technical side of sales. Okay? I'm also in business development, which means I sell a lot of position a lot of non-traditional services here at Verizon, right? Whether it's voice over IP, fleet management solutions, or in today's case, we're going to be talking about business internet. Right? We're going to talk about it from an 4G LTE perspective, as well as 5G fixed wireless access. Okay. I'll also touch upon a little later on in the conversation a little bit about cybersecurity. Okay, that's a big thing. Whenever we're talking internet, we should always be talking about how are you securing those internet connections. So I'm going to ask for some participation from you guys. So I know you guys are eating your breakfast, you're having your coffee, but if you could raise your hand as I go through some of these pain points and some of the challenges that are out there, I just want to get a good feel of how internet is impacting your business today, right? And as we go through today's presentation, I want everybody to kind of think about how does your business use internet today, right? The internet is the backbone of every single business, right? Whether you're powering your credit card payment machines on it, whether you're running your voice over IP over it, or you're just accessing multiple computers there at the office. Think about it as I go through the talk tracks today, is we're not always talking about rip and replace, right? There's no need, if everything works perfectly fine at your business, sometimes it doesn't need to be ripped out and thrown something else in there, right? This could be an option for parallel networking, right? So you're running certain things over internet on this piece of it, but there might be some business critical application and say, hey, I can't have interruption of my credit card machines, right? And I want to be able to put it over a wireless connection. Yes, it's very rare that wireless connections ever go down. So I kind of want you guys to think a little bit out of the box today. It doesn't have to be rip and replace. It could be, building, a separate network. It could be wireless failover. Hey, what happens if this goes down? What's my plan B, right? Everybody should have a plan B, other than, hey, we take a day off and we all go home that day. That's kind of nice, but whoever owns a business, that's not how you drive, revenue. That's not how you get productivity. Okay, so talking about reliable, fast internet connections, the problem is trying to get the right provider, right? So some of the pain points that we see here, if anybody wants to raise their hand, say, hey, that's impacted me at the business, I'd appreciate that. If not, it's okay. I know it's early, coffee hasn't kicked in yet, but some of the things are long lead times for installation. So think of it from a construction standpoint. Hey, I have a job site trailer, right? And I need to put it on a location. And I just called up Comcast, 6 to 8 weeks. What are you going to do in the meantime, right? So if there's something like that impacts you, obviously listen to the conversation as we go along. How about limited choice of internet providers? That's a big one. Okay, all right. Not everybody wants options, right? You don't want to be painted always into a corner, right? You want to have that flexibility to choose a different provider, right? If one thing doesn't work and it's broken, you should have that option to be able to switch over to another provider, okay? So I knew that was going to be a big one. How about poor, unreliable service or frequent outages? That's another big one, right? The wind, wonderful nor'easters that we have here in New England, always kind of painful, knocking things down. And what are you guys doing in the meantime, right? So we talked about that plan B, right? What does your plan B look like, okay? How about speeds are not fast enough to support my business needs? That's probably a big one, right? And a lot of that may be to that first point of view saying, hey, I ride this traffic this way for these applications. Maybe I could use this in order to run these applications, taking a little bit of strain off of the bandwidth, right? So something to think about. Wired connections that don't support new ways of working. That one always revolves around technology. Technology is consistently changing. Businesses are using more cloud applications that they've ever used before. All of those wonderful cloud applications are taking away bandwidth. Those PBX voice over, PBX systems for phones, desk phones, they're all going cloud-based. All those cloud-based VoIP, they need internet connections, so that could impact bandwidth. So that is a big one. So you want to be able to have the flexibility to be able to grow as your business grows through the technology changes, okay? And managing multiple vendors and bills that can take increased IT support, okay? Meaning, I get a bill from over here, I get a bill from over here, I'm gonna get a bill from over here. And then when something breaks, I gotta figure out, who do I contact? Who is that? Is it this person? Is it that person? Is that person? That could be a strain. So when I go through today's presentation, really dig into business internet, keep in mind if you have a business wireless bill or account today, all of this type of service can be put directly onto that bill. So we kind of minimize all of those different vendors that are out there, okay? Okay, what is business internet, okay? First of all, Verizon Wireless is a leader in fixed wireless access. According to Frost & Sullivan, we were awarded the top U.S. wireless access market, in 2022, okay? Our internet connections are nationwide, okay? Whether you have a location here or you have multiple locations throughout the United States, you have the ability to be able to have all of that consolidated and be able to show up on one bill, okay? Monthly scalable plans. So you don't get locked into one particular plan, right? If this is how your business uses internet today, and then 2 years from now, with the amount of changes that are happening in technology, you need to change, you need to grow, you need to increase your plan, you have that capability of doing that, right? Verizon comes out with new plans, right? You have the scalability to be able to change your plan at any time, okay? Reliable service to power your business. Verizon Wireless has always been a leader in connectivity, right? Our cell sites that we have that are out there have backup and on top of backup to be able to make sure that they don't go down. If there ever is an instance where weather is a problem, hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, stuff like that, Verizon's very flexible to be able to make sure that we're able to get a cell on wheels. I don't know what's up with Verizon. They're farming, they have they call them cows, cell on wheels, cells on like trucks. They have all sorts of different names for them, but they're able to bring in, backup in case there ever is an issue. Okay. No long-term service contracts. That's a big one. Nobody loves to sign into a long-term contract, right? If you sign a 3-year contract and 2 years from now technology changes, you want that ability to say, hey, I want to change as well, right? And you should be able to do that. With the products that I'm going to talk about today, you have that capability of changing at any time. Today, I bought this service for this, but wow, I could really use it for that instead, okay? You'll have that ability to be able to do that. You're not locked into a long-term contract. And obviously, and we're always built for however you need the service, right? We're going to go through some use cases today because we want you guys to think out of the box, right? We don't want you to think about, hey, here's my office, here's my primary internet connection. We want you to think about how can I be more productive there and out there, right? Whether it be, yes, I have an office that's powered by Verizon's Business Internet, but wow, what if I can have a van that had internet access in it and I'm able to do road trips, right? Things like that. You could be mobile, right? What if you're a managed service provider down here in Cape Cod and you sell VoIP products, right? What if you said, hey, wow, I'd love to find a way to drive a revenue stream and be able to sell wireless backup. That might be another option, right? So I want you really to kind of think out of the box, okay? I'm gonna say out of the box a lot today, so I apologize.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for absolutely. Nice story. See that? I'm unfortunately told you a story, now you gotta remind me about it all the time. Yeah, you were paying attention, doing that. So we have two different types of technology, okay? One, I'm sure everybody in this room will probably be familiar with, right? And that is our 4G LTE business internet, okay? 4G LTE is the backbone of Verizon Wireless, okay? It is not going away anytime soon, okay? It is gonna be here to power because of it being a nationwide service, coast to coast, okay? 4G LTE has that flexibility because it is nationwide, right? So you have the capability of handling small offices, maybe mobile retail kiosks, right? We talked a little bit about the mobility piece of it, right? Being able to stick it in a van and being able to travel and have internet access in that van, right? And then obviously temporary sites, and I touched upon it, and if there's anybody in the construction site, like construction business, obviously being able to use it at construction sites, moving that job site trailer from one site and going to another site and being able to still have your internet access, okay? Now we talk a little bit about 5G, right? 5G is a big buzzword, right? And there's multiple, as you can see, there's a couple of different things here, self-setup and professional, okay? There's two different types of 5G spectrums that are out there, okay? back in early 2019 or so, Verizon went to an auction, right? And we spent a lot of money. We invested a lot of money into 5G spectrum, okay? And at that time, FCC basically was saying, okay, well, we'll release this spectrum, which one is C-band, and the other one is millimeter wave spectrum, okay? But they were only releasing it to Verizon in a couple of ways. So in 2021, we really started to build out our 5G network. We've been determined to build that out earlier, but kind of can't, right, until it's released. So we have been aggressively building out our 5G network, okay? We, in this December of 2023, will be the second wave, okay? So with having the entire amount of spectrum out there to be able to power our 5G network, it's going to take time to build out, okay? But the thing is, it's consistently, and my email box gets lit up consistently with new location, new location, new location, right? So maybe your 5G access, your address today may not qualify. A week from now, it could be, okay? So 5G is a fixed wireless business internet, okay? It is address specific, okay? So if you say, hey, I would really love to get into 5G, your account manager will take a look at your address to find out if it's available, okay? So it's not available nationwide, it's being built out, but it comes down to address specific. And that's why they call it fixed wireless access, because it doesn't have that mobility piece. It needs to be connected to the network to be able to give you the speeds and the reliability that you need as a business, okay? All right. From an LT business internet, what is it? It is plug and play, okay? You get a router, plug in the wall, it broadcasts, okay? As simple as that.
Do you want me to be data white for you?
Oh.
This is what it looks like.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. So we do have, Verizon does have its own router. This particular device is a 5G and 4G device. So it has the capability of being basically advancing, all right? Being proactive. So today, I qualify only for 4G, right? But Brian just told me maybe a week from now, I could be 5G, right? This has that flexibility without having to go into, buying more hardware to go from 4G LTE over to 5G, okay? We always have the ability, if you said, hey, I'm a Cradle Point shop, that's all I want to buy, it's completely fine as long as it's a Verizon compatible device, it can connect to our network, okay? We talked about nationwide availability, coast to coast coverage on 4G LTE, that's never a problem. Scalable plans, which you will actually see on the right-hand side, okay? Being here at Verizon for 23 and a half years now, this has come a long way, okay? Our plans that we had maybe 10 years ago, we would have laughed at people talking about these plans like this. No way that's gonna happen here at Verizon, there's just no way, right? So these are very similar to what you would see if you reached out to a landline provider and wanted internet connection. You are purchasing plans based on bandwidth, okay? So we talked about scalable plans, the flexibility to increase and decrease depending on how your business is using service. You'd be all able to do that. When we talk about 10, 25, 50 megabytes per second, that is bandwidth, okay? That's speeds, okay? Based on however many users that you see out there, you see 5 devices, 10 devices, 15 devices. That is usually playing it safe, right? Obviously, if you're doing any type of heavy video, stuff like that, you're gonna need more bandwidth than 10, right? If you have more devices out there, Verizon has that capability of increasing and decreasing, okay? But with that, with those bandwidth plans on 4G, we do have a cap of 300 gigabytes, which is a ton of data. Unless you have a son like I do that sits there and watches YouTube for 8 hours not connected to Wi-Fi. But 300 gigabytes per month. So it does have a cap. We will not shut it off because obviously that will impact your business, okay? But you would pay overtime if you did go with that 300 gigabytes, okay? Let's talk a little bit about 5G because everyone wants 5G, right? So what is it? So there is two options, okay? And this comes along with address lookup, right? For us to be able to say what you qualify for. Is it self-setup you're eligible for? Or is this something that is professional and you can build up, which would require something on your roof of your business to be able to pull it in and broadcast it inside your business, okay? So self-setup or professional, okay? We do have experts that would come out to your location, do site surveys, and go over how they would install that particular product, okay? There is a 10-year price guarantee with no long-term contracts. So we talked about not locking yourself into a contract, okay? So you go with this product, a year from now, something better comes out, you say, see you later, Verizon Wireless. You're not locked into any contracts, okay? Because our 5G network is location-based. The reason why it is because within that location is a cell site, okay? That cell site is broadcasting your 5G network, okay? We are going to be very protective of our 5G network, making sure that we do not overload the tower, okay? If you're going to be investing in 5G 100, 200, or 400, so you see that the speeds go up, yeah, opposed to 10, 25, and 50, we're talking 100, 200, and 400. We want to make sure that you as a business customer are getting the speeds that you paid for, okay? So we will cap a cell site, meaning, hey, good news is the cell site can hold 100 businesses on it at this moment in time. We will not sell 101 because that could impact bandwidth, okay? So we're very strict on however many people jump onto that particular tower because we want the experience to be good, okay? Unlike our 4G LTE plans, our 5G plans are unlimited data, okay? So there is no cap. So you want to use it over 300, which however you're using it, by all means, go ahead and do that. So those are the huge differences between 4G and 5G. Okay?
Symmetrical?
It is asymmetrical. Asymmetrical. So symmetrical would mean I have the capability of getting 100 up, 100 down. Okay? Because of it being mobile broadband, it's not capable of doing that. So unlike fiber options, where fiber you say, hey, you pay for 200, you're going to get 200 up, 200 down. Verizon, you pay for 200, you're going to get the 200 down. You're going to get somewhere around 10 to 15% on the upload speed. So great question on that. So,
Can you give us an idea of what the bandwidth capacity of a single site is? Single cell?
So whenever we place orders, like if you said, hey, I'd really love to find out if I'm eligible for 5G. When we actually do a coverage check, it would tell us exactly how many seats are available. So we have a certain amount allotted, and then as they did taken up, they are what they are, but whenever we do a location lookup, we would obviously find out how much capacity is still left on that particular site.
Well, by your numbers, you said it peaks at 400
Yep.
gigabits, right?
Yep.
Okay, and you said
400 megabytes per second, yeah.
megabytes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And you said you used 100 as an example. So is 100 times 400 the capacity of a single?
No.
It depends on the capacity at that
Well,
tower.
give me an example.
I really can't.
Yeah, because it is mobile broadband. So unlike when you do fiber will give you SLAs. They'll say, hey, you know what, you're allowed this. You're signing up for an agreement, you get paying for that. This is mobile broadband, so cell sites, depending on how close you are to the cell site, you get speeds up to 400, okay? Upload speeds, probably 10 or 15% of that.
Yeah, no, I was just trying to get a feel for what it would
Yeah.
take to saturate it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think
Well,
we
that's
also...
actually also variable because as
Users.
it's deployed, the network is constantly modeling. And so the cap, which initially started out at 100 business customers, might go down because we see enough usage at that particular cell site where we say, okay, we're going to cap you at 75. So it's a variable It's impossible to say exactly per se, because it has that so many factors.
Yeah,
People are using it
yeah.
and to what extent.
Right, I'm looking for ballpark figures, I'm not looking for decimal.
So, excuse me,
Yep,
can we clarify units here? You keep saying megabytes,
Megabits.
it's megabits, right?
Excuse me, yeah,
So
sorry,
let's
yeah.
take that factor of 8 out.
So, and it's, whenever we're positioning 5G, sometimes could become a tough conversation because business customers talk to each other, okay? In 5G technology, it's very specific. We talked about, we want to make sure that we're providing speeds the way you want them to be. So in some cases, we'll have a business on one corner be eligible for 5G. And right around the corner, down the street, less than a half a mile away, that user doesn't qualify for it. Okay, because whenever we get out to that fringe of the network, we do not want our customers to experience, lower speeds when they're paying for 200. We don't want them to get 10. So when we get to that fringe area, that's where people are like, hey, I get 5G, and the other business owner around the corner is like, what's going on? So it's address specific. Okay. Obviously, we talked about coverage, reliability, simple, hassle-free, it's cost-effective, lots of flexibility. So earlier on, like I had mentioned, we want everybody to kind of think out of the box. Out of the box again. We want you guys to think a little bit out of the box, opposed to rip and replace. Think about other ways that you can utilize this type of technology to power and use up some bandwidth. Okay. All right. Now the good news is you don't have to worry about listening to me talk. I'm going to hand it over and have them talk a little bit about use cases. So obviously you as a business customer, you know the industry that you're in. As we go through these use cases, it might not be exactly industry specific to you, but it may cover one of those pain points that we talked about in slide 1. As I was asking, raising hand on how that impacts you. So I'll hand it off and go from there.
Thanks, Brian. Great. Yeah, and again, too, we have 5 primary use cases or popular use cases that we find. And I just to go back on what I said before is act small, think big. There's a lot more potential with this type of technology than just this. These are some popular options that we're finding kind of locally to Massachusetts, New England area, and across the nation. So starting off, companies that have a work from home strategy. Now, if a particular user can have a quick, scalable, deployable internet solution provided by the business for a secure and personal connection rather than using a home network for their business needs. The technology is kind of quick for setup. It's really an out-of-the-box type of experience for the end user and provides that high-speed data for an at-home worker.
Just to add on top of that, think about when we were all locked into our houses, which was like crazy, right? Businesses were like, hey, I got somebody that's on the outskirts that doesn't really have a good internet connection, and their son or their daughter is using, Zoom to be able to attend school. How can I be able to get some other option? This was an option that they put into play. So.
And I'm kind of in a similar situation as you guys are. So I live in New Hampshire, so we only have Comcast consolidated. But I do have one of these LTE, and don't get me wrong, LTE is actually a good technology. It actually penetrates further than 5G, so it works great. So we don't want to say that 4G is a bad technology by any means. But anytime that my heater goes down, Comcast gets cut, whatever, we have a bunch of construction going around, I go back into that right there. So it's a great backup option for home.
Do you need 2 separate routers for that?
No, I just have one, and I just make sure it's in my Wi-Fi for my devices, and I don't have the switches.
What's great too is finding a homeowner or employee of a company that maybe just wants to expand an office in their house and doesn't have an actual Ethernet cable running through to that area. Maybe they want to modify the garage for an office space. Plug and play, as long as you have a power supply. Not paying a high voltage some person to run an Ethernet cord.
You literally just plug it in and turn it on.
Is this the same LTE that's being used by the cell phones?
Correct.
So if
Exactly.
your cell phone doesn't have service, it won't have this either.
Correct. Yep. However, in terms of like physical size, I mean, so with a cell phone, you're limited to the physical capacity of the antenna within the device. There's really a myriad of options, and it does take a little bit more research. If this is something that you want to look into, if you had a zero connection kind of area with your cell phone, there are options for antennas with both LTE and 5G technology for connecting to the cell towers. This one, I'm pretty passionate about because it's an important thing in terms of it's technology that's saving lives. In some cases, in some use cases, traditionally, I guess in olden times, healthcare was something that was brought to the home for people, and with modern technology, kind of moved towards hospitals and healthcare facilities. Now, with the power of LTE and 5G internet, that same type of the information that healthcare professionals need can bring it to the homes of patients or people in need of care at high speeds. I mean, in some cases, shipped overnight and deployed in minutes for setup, giving healthcare professionals access to the data that they need to improve lives and save individuals.
And this is really touching upon the mobility piece as well. Like this particular use case is in regards to being able to create a mobile workforce for healthcare workers to be able to use business internet if they're on the road, being able to set up shop, right? But think of it as, hey, something as simple as I have a food truck. I want to be able to take credit card payments in my food truck, something like that. Like, so I talked about it a little bit earlier about thinking out of that box, and this is a mobility piece, and it has that capability of powering up internet in a van, truck, and so it's.
And then the reliability of the network. Multiple nines of connectivity reliability in which that a line from a telephone pole cannot provide, where the uptime and the connection remains, regardless if your power is, and you can have a type of router with a battery backup and still have a cellular connection and have internet and uptime for your network. And I'll pass it off to my colleague Bill as well.
Lots of Steve, lots of Bill's on today.
So he's my I'm Jeff.
Use the word.
Okay, this one should be self-evident just by the title. Everybody needs this. End of story. Your internet goes out here on Cape Cod all the time. Everybody knows that. This won't. You do have variable performance based on some of the geographies around Cape. That's ever improving. Particularly with our 5G program. We're lighting up all of the Cape as fast as the FCC will let. But your wireline connectivity, that's going to be your primary business. But it goes down, and what happens? So this will kick right in, and we won't skip a beat in terms of VoIP systems, credit card payment systems, mission critical applications. And that's what this does. Wireline goes down, wireless goes down.
Does that work across different vendors?
In what capacity?
Like you have a cable connection.
Yep.
You want to use it as a hot failover?
Failover, yes. And this will even happen if you have multiple vendors.
What about static IP?
Static IP is available. So you say, hey, I need this device to have static IP, and absolutely not a problem.
And it's affordable in our realm. So some of the other providers maybe should make that.
But
So if you're going to set this up as a backup, right, you need to program the internal network.
Yep.
In such a way that it'll handle both. So
Correct.
how do you do that? You pull in other vendors to do that? Have you?
Couple different things. We do offer professional services internally here at Verizon Wireless. So we have solutions engineers. I'm just an architect, not an engineer, so I can't speak all the acronyms. But we do have professional services here at Verizon Wireless that can work with you to set it up Or if you said, I have a managed service provider that does my internal network, they can communicate back and forth, sit on call to be able to make sure that it's set up properly.
In the case of a blackout, the central office keeps the copper lines up with a generator. You can't really do that with a cell phone network. What's the service goal to like keep the network up if the power goes out?
So power going out, there's a whole, that's a different conversation to a degree, okay? I'll address, you brought up copper lines. So like, sorry, I'm gonna like spin off.
It's also one of the
I'm
use
gonna
cases
bore
that are
some
not
people
listed
here. So copper lines are going away, okay? Basically, August of last year, FCC said, hey, you know what, landline providers? You no longer have to manage those copper lines. Reason behind it's old technology. It's kind of like going back in the hot tub time machine, the old bag phone, right? You don't see anyone walking around with the bag phone anymore, or the old brick holding it to their noggin anymore. They're talking on their watches now, okay? So it's older technology. It's expensive for landline providers to maintain that old technology. So in August of last year, FCC said, hey, you know what? You guys don't have to deal with it anymore. Which means some of the smaller landline providers were like, here's a letter, you gotta get off of it, or it's gonna get shut down by this certain time, okay? For Verizon copper lines, right, we are still trying to sunset it, we have not. So when we start to get into these conversations with our business customers, we're asking about that. Hey, do you guys have any copper lines out there for alarm systems? You know, burglar alarms. Maybe it's a fax machine that you need to have that menu of the day come out of it. It's so important to get the menu of the day. So we have ways to be able to convert those old copper lines over into digital. So that's what we would like you to do.
But what's the service goal of keeping the cell phone network up when the power's down?
So cell phone sites will never go down, but if you had a router, if you had wireless,
But the last blackout we had about 4 or 6 hours, depending on who your provider was.
Yeah.
So,
So this particular router here doesn't have battery backup. Okay, so if power went completely down,
yeah, no, I'm asking about the cell phone
network itself
towers.
has battery backup at our macro towers, and we have generator backup at every site that we will get a permit for. So if your municipality will allow us to put a permit, we will have a generator backup of that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
sorry about that. But from a router perspective, non-battery, we do have battery-powered routers. And thank you for hitting some of the diesel generators and so on. So we have multiple redundancies for all of our cell sites.
It's okay, can we put the next questions to, for the end, and then just bring up a couple more slides that we just definitely want to cover.
All right.
All right,
Thank
okay,
you so
so, you give me the hook.
All right, so now that we talked a little bit about 4G LTE, we talked about 5G fixed wireless access. I'm just going to go through some quick slides because it'd be almost doing an injustice if we didn't talk about security, right? You know, there are multiple bad actors out there, and there's a lot of different software out there causing problems for our, for customers, right? You hear cybersecurity in the news almost once, twice, 3 times a week. You're hearing about places like Target, big providers getting hacked and so on. So I just want to make sure that I talked a little bit about business internet. I didn't want to go too deep into the weeds on it just because today's conversations with business internet, but I put them both together because I could sell you a product, but I don't want to sell you a product and all of a sudden you have open door in the front of the house, open door in the back of the house, and every single window is open, and any kind of bad actor can hop in there, jump into your network and cause a major problem. Okay, so I just wanted to touch upon just a couple of things in security. So what's the risk, right? The average data breach can cost a business almost $4.5 million. Okay, when you think about that and put it into your own business perspective, in some cases, a data breach could end your business, right? So it's like, okay, how secure is my internet connection, right? Whether it be, hey, I have a landline provider, I have a firewall that sits in front of my business to make sure it's monitoring all that traffic. When it comes to wireless business internet, we want to make sure that we're providing security to that particular device, as well as all of the endpoints that are connecting to that business internet device. Oh, thank you. So for 16 years, okay, Verizon Wireless has been publishing the Data Breach Investigation Report, DBIR, okay? It can kind of be a tongue twister, so it's a DBIR, okay? So for 16 years, what we do is we're investigating cybersecurity attacks, right? What was the methodology behind that attack? How did it happen? What are the trends that are happening out there? By all means,
Publicly published?
yeah, absolutely. You can go to Verizon Wireless, or you can just type in DBIR. It takes forever to download. It's a huge report, and you got hours of fun reading to deal with if you wanted to. But it's important, right? So when you take a look at incidents that basically took place in 2022, and then out of the ones that we investigated, almost 5,200 data breaches were investigated and are published in this DBIR. Okay?
Question.
Yeah, by all means.
Could you define incidents versus data breach?
Yeah, sure. Data breaches could be anything from bad actors, which I'm going to go over in a couple slides from now, just so you can see the differences. When we talk about data breaches, we're talking about like malware, stuff like that. Somebody that puts software into your company, and all of a sudden, oh, hey, so we'll talk just briefly on that. But this report is put together for two reasons. One, Verizon wants to know what's happening out there. Okay, Verizon is a leader holistically from a landline and a wireless company as one of the leaders in the industry. Okay, we want to make sure that we know what's happening out there so that we can provide solutions for our business customers. Okay, if you wanted to get something, you have a resource to be able to do that. Okay, two, for you guys, right? You guys need to know what's going on out there. What should I be aware of as a business customer? What are the latest trends? And what is the latest trend and how would it impact me? How do I protect myself against that particular trend? Okay?
Okay, got it, yeah.
Okay. So some of the key findings in 2022. Almost 75% of those breaches involved a human element, either yourself or an employee, okay? So that is scary. Whether it be your employee received a text message said, your Amazon package is having some issues. Please click on the link. Any IT professional would be like, oh my God, do not click on the link. But you know what they do? They click on the link, even though they didn't order anything from Amazon, and now we have a problem, okay? So 75% of them involve a human element. Not that they're doing it maliciously, but they just don't know any better. Education is so important. Verizon, trust me, we go through it too. We test it. Anytime I get this weird oddball email come through, I'm like, I'm not gonna click on that link. I'm gonna delete it as soon as possible, or I'm gonna report it. So we are consistently testing our employees to make sure that they're not doing anything that they should not be doing, okay? The other 25% comes into the ransomware conversation, okay? That is something that, malware may be involved in, and all of those type of ransomware, if anybody's not familiar with ransomware, that's where somebody is able to, install some sort of software into your network. They're able to not only pull data, but they can lock down your data. Meaning you won't have access to your customer information or any of that until you pay this person money in order to get your information back. And that could put a business out of business, okay? Because all of that revolves around that 95% of it, incidents are financially motivated. Yep, you have a question?
So I got 2 or 3 calls today from spam risk.
Yeah.
And that's because AT&T knows that the spam risk and they're helping me out. So for data breaches and stuff, is there anything you can do at Verizon Central to notice that it's happening?
Yeah. So we do have spam filter capabilities. If there's anything else that you know of,
I'm not talking about simple spam. I'm talking about denial of service, things like that.
Absolutely. When we start to see that traffic and we see it often, and we see a lot of hits on us, even if it's just one particular router or a group of routers. For example, if there's a router brand that we see that's being targeted, we will absolutely stop that. We will stop that traffic. But we can't stop it all because there's so much of it, and so much of it looks legitimate. So there's a lot of things that you can do. The best thing that you can do is really layer in different technologies that will help protect you, because if there was one out there that I could say will protect you from everything, everybody would have it and all the other ones would be out of business. There's vulnerabilities all over the place, and the best thing you can do is layer.
So 95% is always financially motivated. The other 5% could be somebody trying to steal your cookie recipe. Who knows? Bad actors. So this is kind of one of the big things. Is it account impersonation, right? Bad actors being out there setting up Wi-Fi. You go into a Starbucks and you're like, hey, why did Starbucks spell their name wrong? Starbucks knows how to spell their name, but we have some people that want to connect to that Wi-Fi. Hey, I need quick access. I need to send a couple emails. I'm in Starbucks. Let me connect to Wi-Fi. Why did Starbucks spell their name wrong? I still need Wi-Fi. Let me connect. My brother does it all the time, which drives me absolutely insane. I'm the youngest of 5, and I'm like, would you guys stop doing this stuff or something? But when you do that, they're going to ask you for, hey, enter some credentials. Enter a username and password. People hate passwords. I got the same password for this, that, and the next thing. Guess what? Bad actors, they know that. So all they need to know is your email address and that probably password that you have on all those different things, and they can get in.
Yeah, and just to be precise, if I wanted to spoof Starbucks Wi-Fi and spell it correctly, you'd have trouble telling my network apart from the real network.
Correct. Yep. If you had, I actually watched during one of my security things, somebody had they called it a pineapple. He might have been an engineer, but he did just that. He created a network, and he was like, I was literally sitting in and I was just testing. He's like, you wouldn't believe how many people were trying to connect to that particular network. So we
Just have to call free Wi-Fi.
Yep. Yeah, I need to send this email. I need to check this document. So it happens. Okay, so bad actors is very bad. 3 of the common threats that you see out there: phishing attacks or smishing attacks. Phishing attacks, they're getting smart. I mean, you really need to look at emails in some cases to really determine if it's a phishing attack. Sometimes you can get fooled. Sometimes the domain almost looks exactly the way it should, but it might be spelled a little bit wrong, and that can be a problem. You also see smishing attacks. So we talked a little bit about text messaging. And click on your Amazon link, and you're like, I didn't order anything, but when you click on it, that's a problem, okay? Rogue Wi-Fi, we talked about, and then app permissions. That's kind of like, people just don't really always necessarily think about it. So this is more of a mobile type problem where you have Apple and you got Android. And everyone's like, hey, I'm an Apple provider, and Apple always monitors their applications to make sure that they're protected. But Android is kind of open. And like when you download your flashlight app, because you don't have one on your phone per se, why does your flashlight app need all this access? You're like, this doesn't look right. So, but people need that flashlight, just like they need their email, and they'll download it. So you got to be careful with that. Okay, so talking quickly about our business internet. So we talked about 4G, we talked about 5G, okay? We have, and Melissa had mentioned, layers of security. Verizon, we always have a secure network, but in order to make sure that we're maintaining it, multiple layers of security is never a problem, okay? You want to make sure you have options. We talked about having multiple options, okay? So we offer what they call Verizon Business Internet Security, okay? It is an affordable product. One big piece of somebody might say is, I don't have the IT department to do this, right? This doesn't need an IT department. It is a network-based solution that basically sits and monitors incident traffic, okay? So it will protect against malicious websites out there on the black web. Hey, I went to this website and all of a sudden now my computer's slowing down, okay? This will prevent against stuff like that. We talked about ransomware protection, right? Hey, how do I protect my device here, my little box, as well as all the endpoints that are connected to it? This particular product will be able to monitor that, okay? It will also do malware, so it is all built into that, okay? If you are a person that says, hey, I want to invest in this, but I want to manage it. So the first section, the plus section, you don't have to manage anything. It will all do it for you, okay? It will have a platform that will monitor and show you the incidents, so you can see everything, see what you could have been up against, right? The preferred section is for the person that says, hey, you know what? This is a business use, right? And I want to make sure people aren't going onto Netflix and using up all of my data, right? I want them to work, right? So you have the ability of doing content filtering. So if you want to shut off gambling, adult content, you name it, that particular feature it does involve you having to toggle some switches on and off. You can do that. Or you could block certain websites. So if you have people that are constantly going on Amazon and they're shopping when they're supposed to be working, you have the capability of blocking a website. Okay? I'm using it for time, I'm sorry. I'm going to talk fast. But as I mentioned, I'm trying to talk fast because I'm probably jumping into some Julie's time. Set it and forget it, easy to use. So if you said, hey, I just want to make sure I'm protecting against ransomware, malware, all that good stuff, you have the ability of setting it and forgetting it. Okay, everybody likes that piece of it. As mentioned, it's not device agnostic. Okay, so if you bought a Verizon router, that's great. So it can do all of that. But if you decided, hey, I'm a Cradle Point house, I'm a Sierra Wireless house, whatever it is, you have the capability of still getting that protection on other devices that are not Verizon, as long as they are Verizon wireless compatible devices on our network. Okay, it's affordable. It's easy integrated dashboard, so you have that one landing page to see all the different incidents that happen and be able to say, wow, if I didn't have this, I'd have a problem. Okay, and it is a network-based solution. So,
All right, we saved the best for last, the most fun.
yes, now I get to hand it over to Julie.
Yeah, so my name's Julie Dumpke, and I handle the private networks on site within the Northeast area. And I've been with the company for 25 years. I'm still younger than Brian. I can remember when I first started off, like I had a bag phone, right? People just had one device. And now when I think about it, I have 7 devices just to myself. And I did have a kid later on in life, so my 4-year-old daughter has 2 devices. She's got an iPad Pro and an Amazon Fire. So what my team does is we focus on infrastructures, right? So now the normal connectivity, you're talking about 17 devices per person, per room, hospitals, any kind of business. And that can tie down the Wi-Fi network. It doesn't work as right, there's interference. And even sometimes cell phone carriers, no matter what carrier you have, doesn't work right. So I'm gonna have Brian drive for me if you don't mind. Or one of you guys, yep. No. Maybe Brian should drive.
There you go.
So yeah, it's not whether your business will change, it's whether you're ready. So what I always tell people is, do you have that racetrack built for the infrastructure, right? Are you just building the car and you don't have it? So for an example, one of my customers is a robotic inventory consultant, right? And he has put all this stuff into big boxes. He knows that he needs a private network in order to get that to go. When you're in Wi-Fi and you go AP to AP, it's not seamless, right? So if you're walking around with your mobile device and you're on a video and you go AP to AP, it's probably going to break up the middle of its body. Well, with private wireless network, it does not. So you're looking at, you can go ahead and see the slide, please. So you're looking at, Brian, do you want to drive?
I will drive.
So you're looking at seamless, reliable, secure, agile, and easy, right? So I'm just going to skip to the next one just because I know we're short on time here. But this just shows you a typical Wi-Fi comparison compared to the private network. So this is your Wi-Fi in a manufactured building, and there's 49 Wi-Fi APs. It's 1 AP for private network to 10 Wi-Fi APs. So it's that much stronger, 20 times in strength. Less cables, less power pools. It's mobile. We grow with your business. We can add on. We can do outdoors. So your mesh Wi-Fi networks that are, to be honest with you, quite crappy. The private network outdoors for venues and stuff like that. You can see us in the NFL stadiums for football. This is all the stuff that we work on. So you can see how many APs are there, and then go to the next slide, please. Versus the private network, right there. So when we talk about private network, it is a spectrum. It's your own private spectrum. You're not using the public cellular network on the outside. If you need to use Wi-Fi off the private network, you can do that too. So you can work in conjunction with your existing infrastructure, or you can actually use a Cradle Point and turn that private network into Wi-Fi to where any device can use. But this service is fully managed. So you don't ever have to worry about software updates or anything like that. We have 24/7 support. It's white glove. We do the installation. Any IT company that has like a headache and they don't want to deal with anything, we come in and we do it all from the beginning to the end. The only thing they need you to provide is backup for backhaul, obviously not backup, backhaul, and then power supplies. Next slide, please. So that's what I just kind of talked about there, the white glove service and the equipment. The equipment is just 8 piece. It's an edge core server, and then you have your antennas. There's different antennas for outdoors versus indoors. And we use 3 different partners. I haven't had one customer use the same kind of, custom built high level design. Everybody's different. So feel free to contact us if you would like a consultation. I have a tier 1 engineer, a tier 2 engineer, and we do free high level designs for anybody that's interested. And then the next slide. Okay, so use cases. I'm in the private sector, but we do private and public. So we've done everything from quarries, NFL stadiums. We just did our second port in Virginia. This one was in UK. We don't have the video press release yet for the Virginia port, but they'll be coming soon, so you'll see a press release on it. But I always tell people to do Google alerts and put private network in and get those alerts, because you're going to see, from when our team first started off to now, it's increased about 40%. So these companies know that they need this kind of technology in order for their business to grow. Remember, scanners, robotics, anything like that, even the forklifts. I had a customer buy the wireless forklifts with the wireless tablets. It didn't have the compatibility for a private network. It's $500 to ship them off, down production, and then bring them back. So this is very important to bring into your business. So I'm going to let them go ahead and play the port video here, and then we'll finish off with that. And if you guys have any questions, we'll be happy to answer.
Is the private network dependent on 5G?
No. In fact, I recommend LTE for outdoors. So like venues and stuff like that, because it penetrates further. 5G is necessary for like the robotics, anything that with low latency. That would be necessary for 5G.
What's the low latency of 4G?
It's 10 milliseconds. So it's still, it's still great.
How fast is 5G?
Yeah, 5G is like 5 milliseconds. Like it's 5G you can't beat, but it's also more pricier, right? So your LTE is going to be probably like half the cost. But when it comes to infrastructure, companies don't really mind spending the money on this because it's necessary, right?
So can you talk about what spectrum is available for 4G LTE private networks? It's separate from the public cellular.
Yeah, so we can bring in spectrum, or we can use, it's called CBRS, Citizen Broadband. It's the what the Navy uses.
Excuse me?
That's
What?
what the Navy uses, CBRS. So we actually bought part of that spectrum off the Navy, and we can bring that in as the 4G spectrum into your office.
What's the bandwidth?
The bandwidth?
How much spectrum is it?
We bring it in. Like it just depends on like how much you want. It's all custom. So if
100
you do 1 AP,
megahertz? What?
If you do 1 AP, the spectrum could reach probably like about 1.5 miles.
Any of you know how much bandwidth is available for you to use for private networks? You're not answering my question.
Oh, sorry. I guess I'm not understanding it. Like, are you talking about the speeds?
Never mind.
Okay, sorry. Didn't understand it. Right, you play the video.
The Port of Southampton handles over 40 billion pounds of UK exports, nearly 600,000 vehicles, and over 1.2 million cruise passengers a year. It's more than a port, it's an international gateway. As a global leader facing increasing pressure to deliver faster and more efficiently than ever, Associated British Ports needed to transform their business to stay ahead. So they reached out to Verizon to harness the power of a private 5G network, giving them control, security, and the ability to adapt to change in near real time. We call this enterprise intelligence.
The Verizon team were instrumental in not only allowing us to conceptualize the idea of our private 5G network, but also in the planning, the solution design, and the application from contract signature to production use in under 6 months. It was a real feat of engineering.
Now the Port of Southampton is getting smarter and more agile by the day.
With our private 5G network, we keep our employees connected across our ports.
To have ultra-fast communications across our terminals.
We're no longer limited by Wi-Fi signals. Verizon private 5G network is the foundation for us to build on.
And this is why being the first port to offer 5G to our customers was a strategic and great milestone for ABB.
This is what the future looks like at Britain's first 5G port, powered by a Verizon private 5G network.
We can keep our drone flights automated and running, and we can collect millions of data points to start utilizing computer vision, artificial intelligence, and virtual reality to develop real simulations of port operations, ensuring that we can have the right people in the right place to support our customers, but it also gives our customers visibility of where their products are.
With Verizon 5G, the Port of Southampton is more than a global economic hub. It's an international leader in innovation.
The private 5G network gives us the ability to be creative with technology and to really test our ability to bring new ideas and innovation through our ports.
And Verizon's private 5G network can enable us to become a port of the future.
With Verizon, Associated British Ports gets more than a private network. They get enterprise intelligence from the network businesses rely on.
Is the presentation for the private network. So, does anybody have any questions?
So I have a quick technical question. So you may or may not have an answer to this.
We'll do the best we can. If we can't, we'll get somebody else.
One of the annoying things about the public shared Xfinity network is if you roam with the Wi-Fi and the Xfinity network and you get home, it connects to the roaming part of your modem, not your home network, and you can't print or do anything like that. When you're on the edge of like a private network or have a phone that's on the device Wi-Fi, do you have a way of like coaxing it onto the right network or having the networks talk to each other so they share?
So he's talking about handoff from, say, a wireless network going outside of that bubble, and now what does that?
So there's an actual.
Being on the edge of the bubble.
Yeah, the edge of the bubble. Yep.
It actually hands off fine. So eSIMs can actually be programmed for the private network now, and you can do local device management and geofence. You can do up to 1,000 geofences in a location.
Okay.
So it automatically hands off and hands on.
I guess I had questions earlier. Sorry.
What is that exactly? Phone lines, DSL, cable?
So copper, when you think of copper, you're thinking older technology.
We can't hear the
like
question
vertical,
back here. Repeat the question, please.
So he's asking about copper lines, like what is involved in a copper line, like what type of products run over copper lines? Yeah, like
DSL.
yeah, the old school. So yeah, copper lines, you're looking at stuff like fax machines. Those are the most common things, like a fax machine. Things like McDonald's, like McDonald's Enterprise, a lot of their restaurants, they were built in the 80s, right? That like McDonald's really started, ramping up and getting restaurants out there. Problem is the technology that was installed in there involves a lot of copper, and it could be like a burglar alarm, something like that, a fire alarm panel. Okay, and when I get into fire alarm panels, we don't just say, "Hey, plug your fire alarm panel into this thing." That's not what I mean. The products that are sold specifically for what they call POTS lines, plain old telephone service, basically are approved to be able to power a fire alarm panel or a fax machine. Fax machines are slowly starting to trend away. A lot of businesses are like, I don't really need the menu of the day popping out at $50, $60 a month. I'm paying for this copper line. Is there a more affordable solution? Like I said, yeah, an eFax solution would cost you $8.99 and allow you 200 incoming and outgoing faxes. Is $9 better than $50 or $60 for that old beast that you have to service every single year and make sure it's loaded with paper? So there, that's one solution, but POTS is what you'd see on that. I know you had it earlier. I cut you off earlier.
So I have two questions actually.
Yep.
So 5G, because of the wavelength, needs a receiver at the business.
There's two different types. And actually, when we do address qualification, it will let us know what's available. For example, We do have the TD Garden, right? Obviously, the Boston Celtics play there, the Boston Bruins are there, and we have a big, beautiful office that we built right before COVID. Not a good, maybe not a good investment then, but in that particular area, you're talking millimeter wave spectrum, right?
Yeah.
Millimeter wave spectrum, which is a mouthful to say without like tripping over yourself, it doesn't really broadcast as far.
Correct.
Okay? So in order to get that to broadcast involves multiple locations. Unlike 4G, which we talked about earlier, expands nationwide, millimeter, that needs multiple sites to be able to power it, right? When we talk about C-band spectrum allows a further broadcast. So it needs less of those little microcells that are out there. So whenever somebody says, hey, I want to see what is available for my business, what do I qualify for? When we do a qualification of an address, it will flat out tell us this customer is eligible for 4G LTE, and it will give us a no and a no for 5G. Or there is possibility where you might be in an area near Boston, the Garden, Providence, Rhode Island. They have millimeter wave, and in some areas there, it will tell you.
So if you're a business out here, who pays for that millimeter?
All of it's built within the. I'm sorry.
So let's say I'm a business.
Yeah.
There's no towers nearby, but I do qualify. But it needs a
receipt. Yeah,
Who pays?
that's all built in. Verizon will take care of that.
Verizon takes
Yep.
care of it? Okay.
Yeah, because we have to actually build. We actually have to put something on the roof.
Yeah.
Roof,
exactly.
whether it be
Because it's
rooted
not-
down on a sled,
Right.
and then we bring it into a receiver.
That goes to them.
And if you do like a private network, you tell us what speeds you want, and then we customize it to your needs. And that's paid for by businesses.
And the next question is a kind of a long-term one, which is, as you alluded to, the expansion of the number of devices and their appetite for data. What is your plan going forward when 400 at your top end is going to be inadequate? And that's just download, inadequate for this campaign in the year.
So right now, at particular locations on the millimeter wave, we have exceeded 2,000 megabits. So it's continuing to grow. Select locations get select speeds, and based on plan availability, and also too, at the end, also it boils down to customer need. So we've kind of designed these plans based off of research so far for what we can provide, and that will continue to grow.
Whoever wants to throw one out.
Yeah, our discussion today was a lot about the technology and the benefit of the technology, et cetera, right? One of the challenges we have on Cape Cod is no choice or no affordable choice. So what are Verizon's plans to build out a 5G ultra network on the Cape and support, quite frankly, a population that explodes in the summer and really reduces service for everybody?
I'll camp on that. So I sit on the Town of Wellfleet Cable Internet Advisory Board, and businesses, we all understand so I'll represent a home and a small business. I know that come the first week of July, my cell phone on Verizon is gonna drop, just the way it is. If a business in my small town were to say, should I go to Verizon for my business running on cell, I don't understand how you're managing and planning for the contention, nor do I know that you're watching and caring about the contention in these small places. So sorry, I just wanted to jump on.
That is a serious problem
That's the
for
opportunity.
businesses.
Yes.
To defend the provider, it's tough to get cell phone sites on Cape Cod, so like there's a whole protest to put one on 6A, and
Well,
everybody said no.
It's not only the wireless. I mean, Comcast starts choking in May, right? So,
All we can tell you.
like, what are the plans to deal with
The
that?
question is, we're trying. And what that means is, we are building out the infrastructure as fast as the Cape Cod Commission, and as well as the FCC, and all of the other regulatory agencies that we need to.
And
Well,
we're
towns.
in municipalities, because we really need the support of the municipalities in order to build.
Yeah.
So
I-
David, you just got thrown under the bus.
Yeah, I, by the way, I do have Verizon 5G wireless. and it's outstanding, okay? I can't talk to anybody about it, right? Because when I tell them about it, you know, they put in their area code or their zip code, it's like not available, not available, not available. So how do you deal with that?
That's where this new spectrum that we're releasing will help us a lot. So the big issue on the Cape, first of all, obviously it's a small, skinny, right, in the middle of the ocean. And so now we're trying to build towers all over the place, which we have plenty of towers. It's the capacity at this point. And so getting that new spectrum, C-band spectrum, that mid-band spectrum is going to allow for more people to be on the network. And then we need to fill in with these small sites. And so we are lighting up small sites all the time. I have a list of them. I don't know if I'm supposed to go through them with you, but I probably just this year, I probably have like 50 or 60 of them all over the Cape that have been lit up, which will help to offset. But really, I can't ask you enough to please just work with your municipalities. We need the support of the municipalities. We can't build without that support.
And just to jump on that, well, sorry. When I lived in New York, there's a dead spot on the FDR Drive. My dad worked for the phone company, and they were trying to find a tower to put it on. So they actually put it in our building. So can you use private sites on Cape Cod to help with that?
Absolutely. We are always looking for real estate. So if you have somewhere that's kind of high up, a tower, a church steeple,
Church.
Those places are always being evaluated. We do have a website. If you just Google Verizon Real Estate and there's a form there, our engineering team is constantly, our network team is always looking for places to build. And if we have capacity covered, constraints there, then we absolutely will contact you.
And just one quick spin, and I will get to your question, I guarantee you, is not do you want to complain about the network, but you need to, complaining to the right person about the network goes a long way. So we were actually on a call yesterday with our network team, just talking about what's going on today, right?
Yes.
And, she had mentioned about, they create budgets based on where there's need. In order to increase the need is by calling into Verizon and saying, hey, I got a dead spot in this particular location. There's an incident. So that incident will roll up.
You have the ability to see traffic on the network. You've got historic patterns of contention. I don't think it should rely on a wealthy business owner who's up to their eyeballs to be registering if they want to build their business. So I don't support your position there. I think you've got a ton of data, and we're just trying to live our lives and run our business. And we're not TD Garden, right? So if it's a place that's important to you guys, come to us and come to our municipalities. And given we're out in the peninsula, I get all that. But if you're going to come and spend the time today, let us know the level of partnership you're looking
So
for.
I used to actually work in government with Verizon, and whoever your representative is for government, I would actually go to towns with my network engineer, and we would put up extra network extenders and stuff like that just to help capacity in those timeframes. So and they can do up to 3 extenders per location at no charge. So I would definitely contact whoever your rep is. Do you know who they are by chance?
We have one rep for 13 towns.
So I'd like to, first of all, I want John Ketchum to get, he's been trying to get a
Yes,
question
I'd
in,
like
so
to.
I want to.
Okay, so I want to move from the regulatory area to physical and technical limitations of what you're talking about here. Given that C-band and even more so millimeter wave provide limited coverage, and if you're building out in a wide area, you're only going to be building short cells or low cells. I live like a quarter of a mile down the road from what I take to be a Verizon 5G microcell, and I barely get any signal. And I think that's pretty representative of what you can do. The statement was made earlier that you're in the process of lighting up the whole Cape. I'd like to hear a little more about the business case for actually lighting up all of Cape Cod, because what I'm interested in, and I think probably a lot of people in this room are interested in, is finding a way to have broad availability for real broadband. And I don't see how that works with fixed wireless or 4G LTE mobile coverage. I would like to hear some comments about that, what the business case is.
Well, I mean, you You hit on the number one challenge that we face on a daily basis. We're building out our infrastructure as fast as all of the, again, we have to keep in mind the regulatory agencies. So we're building out as much as we possibly can. At the same time, notwithstanding the swell on a seasonal basis that we and all carriers actually on the wireless side have to deal with. We're trying to manage that in as cost efficient a way as possible for us, which means the investment is over time. It starts with bandwidth that we purchase from the FCC, and then it goes to deployment of towers and the rest of the infrastructure that is required. One of the reasons that we focus a lot on private networks in Julie's group is because there are certain areas and certain businesses that can't wait, and we can build it up and spin it up for your specific private business network there. As far as the publicly available, both LTE and 5G network, it's a work in progress, and it's continuing to grow. It's better than it was 10 years ago, and if anybody remembers 10 years ago, you couldn't get anything at any time, regardless of what.
I'll add to it too, is the ask whether it is a coverage problem or a capacity problem. In the last few years, there's been exponential growth in seasonality to Cape Cod, and in keeping up to that type of growth is very difficult as we continue to build out the networks. We do have now, on top of the ability of calling into our services, for Verizon customers, there are for both consumer and business ticketing systems directly to engineer level representatives for seeing whether it is a capacity or a coverage problem.
In the interest of time, I'd like to kind of start wrapping things up. And the folks from Verizon will be here, so nobody's running anywhere. But